Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
This meeting to order, 5:32, January 6th. Lead us in a pledge of allegiance and feel these words as we say them tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any adjustments to the agenda? Hearing nothing. Go ahead.
I have none, George.
Okay. Communications and public comments. Anybody have anything out there they want to share?
I do not have anything in the chat.
That's good because the rock board isn't chatting anyway. Okay, excellent. We can move right on to FY 2021 budget review. We all got the latest. Yeah, that's better. We all got the latest from Flora, right? So Flora, maybe you could give a quick synopsis of some of the changes that were made to get us to this final figure. Is Flora here? I don't see Flora. Oh, there she is.
I am here. I'm just trying to search for my mouse, but it's okay. I could just use the laptop.
That's okay. Anything's fine. We can wait for you.
Okay. Kids, it has to be somewhere. So yes, I did meet with each of the principals, so they reviewed their budget, and they did make some adjustments to try to level fund it as much as they could or be as close as they could.
Okay, and that decrease came from the yellow highlighted areas. Is that?
It's actually the miscellaneous area, which is like orange color.
Yeah, that's what I was calling yellow, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Karen did different adjustments other than those ones.
Okay.
She did adjust according new principal that might come in. So she did kind of an adjustment, according to what is expected from whoever is going to come in her place. And she did adjust some of her miscellaneous. Carrie did some adjustments on her miscellaneous as close as she could as well. But Carrie's situation was a little different because she did have to add in her budget for a regular education student that does need special ed services, which is something that she did not have in the budget for previous year. So that's why she was the one that had the less amount to be adjusted for.
Okay. So before we get too far in, I guess what I'd like to see us do is get as far as we can with with being satisfied tonight, and I'm hoping to have just one. I see your hand, Priscilla. Yep. Just give me a second. I'm hoping to have only one more meeting, and I'm not sure of our drop dead date that it needs to be done, and Nicole's looking into that for us. But my hope is that we will be able to have just one more meeting, at which time I'm hoping we'll be able to approve a final budget. I know going forward. There's several questions. Priscilla, a couple questions that I have, but Priscilla, I'm going to let you go ahead and go first. You had your hand up.
I was interested in hearing from the principals on the cuts. I asked about doing, what it would look like with a 1% off there, but I'd also like to know whether whether the principals feel they really need some of those things and not just, I'm not interested in just cutting the cut. I mean, cut if you can, absolutely, but if it's something that's needed, I don't want them to feel the pressure of not having what they need to do a good job. If that makes sense. So I'd like to kind of hear from them what they did and how that impacts their budget.
Oh, sure.
Great. That's what we did last year. We heard from them when they were talking about this.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm happy to speak.
Laura, go ahead.
If that's okay, I'll speak first.
Sure.
Let me bring you up here, Laura, just a second.
When I went back through initially before I met with Flora, the biggest cuts I made were in the COVID expenses. So it doesn't necessarily directly impact teaching and learning in that way, and hoping that there are still some grants that come through from the feds and trickle down through the state should this continue. Flora and I also, when I asked about some salary lines, went back and looked at where various employees were being pulled out of, and we made some adjustments there, although it's not a negative, as you can see in the table that she has there, but a decrease. But there were some, I would say, fairly significant adjustments made there as well. So that's really where SRES, the bulk of SRES's changes came from. So thank you for your thoughtful question, Priscilla. And I do not believe that the cuts will significantly impact teaching and learning at Saxons River.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, I think that's really the essence of the question. So that's great. Thanks. Ms. Kennedy, I see you unmuted. Feel free.
Sure, thank you. No, I do appreciate the opportunity to respond to this. So we have a little bit more of an impact that might happen on our teaching and learning. We had to cut from capital improvements, which we are already making a big boiler change for this year, and some of it's being reimbursed through a grant, which is lovely for our capital improvement line item. For next year, we're hoping, there's always that big gamble that there won't be any major projects, but with a flat roof and things, you never know. And so it's always something we like to keep on hand just in case you do need a major construction rehab or something like that. So we did feel that we could make some cuts to that. But technology is the one place right now that took one of the next biggest hits. So we didn't have to affect, the instructional component and have to let go programs or people or something like that. So today it did come up. We were discussing some of the technology pieces that teachers have, which maybe be able to cover for this year's technology budget. So projectors, depending on how long remote learning and teaching has to go on, teachers are still not quite able to replicate their classrooms from home. And so to be able to have an Elmo or a projector, so if they wanted to share a read aloud story or something like that, there's the old school hold up the book, but it's not very good instructionally when you're trying to teach a student how to read a certain line item or something like that in a book. So the ability to project the book would be easier. The problem that we run into is the MacBook Airs that our teachers have are not compatible, some of them with the projector ability. So we would have to either get an adaptation piece or looking at some other, opportunities, whether it's the actual, laptops for the students. For the teachers. The Chromebooks are okay. But so that may be something that we have to address. There could be the opportunity for a GoFundMe or some sort of a grant. Is always something that we could look into, but that's right now one of the biggest areas that is impacted by the cut.
Okay. On the capital funds, though, there is money that we set aside when we've done the budget with the Rockingham budget. For example, last year they set aside $100,000 from the fiscal year 2019 fund balance, which is a reserve fund for capital improvements. So I don't know where Flora has accounts for that, but that is something that's stored up and that we would have available to use for capital funds. And
Okay,
I know
that's
they've
good
done
to
that
know.
year after year.
Yeah, so what we have is specifically just earmarked for the CES part of it. And so we did cut some of that back, just trying, again, not to impact the teaching and learning. So that's good to know that if need be in a crisis, there'd be some possible, backup option, that if it's not just under the CES line item, that it could actually come from the Rockingham Collective. That might be helpful. And if all goes well, we don't need it, which is one of the benefits.
That's a question I'm not sure of, but somebody can figure that one out, I'm sure. Thank you. So you think you will be okay with what's in there unless there's something huge that comes up that we aren't planning for anyway?
Yes. I mean, I think overall there's, some cuts to some minor, parts of, library subscriptions and things, which again, we can try and come back with a, grants or something along those lines. But the capital projects is one of the places where we did reduce by $5,000. And again, that's a line item that we hold. And, we do have some playground repairs that need to be made. I did reach out back to the manufacturer because our playground's 3 years old, but we did have an audit, as all the elementary schools did recently. And there were some components structures that need to be fixed. Hopefully it wouldn't take all of that, a line item there. Some of it we're hoping it needs to be done in this year's budget. So with the grant refund for the money for the boiler, hopefully we should take some of that out of what we already have now. We have to really look at closely what the auditors had said for the playground audit. What can be done. There's layers, there's categories of red, yellow, greens, and obviously the reds have to be fixed right away. But the yellows and greens we have to put on the list, but they can be held off just a little bit longer. So for student safety, it's more of, it's a lower risk factor than the ones that were in the red category. So, but there are some structures that need to be addressed. It was more of also the installation that was happening. Some of it's maintenance just for Vermont winters on the actual playground structures, but we do have to look into that as well.
Yes, we did receive today the check for the grant for the repairs, but this grant is not only allocated to one school, it's allocated to 3 of them. So we have, a portion for the elementary, we have the portions for Rockingham, and we have a portion for the high school. So this grant only covers a portion of the expenses of the boilers repairs or each of the schools. It doesn't cover like a 100% of all these expenses. We're still trying to figure how much is going to be covered for each of them because, of course, the grant was less than what we have submitted for. So right now, for FY21, we had allocated $15,000, for capital projects. So, a portion is going to go to the playground, and another portion will as well go for the boiler, because going for the amount that was invoiced to us, I'm thinking that at least $3,000 to $4,000 we will have to take from capital projects budget.
Yeah, but Flora, do you know where that $100,000 that we put in there last year, where that went? Because that came from our surplus and it was put in there by the voters voted to put it in a reserve fund to be used for capital improvements. And I know we've done that in previous years too, so there should be a fairly good sized fund there available.
Yes, I did share that this morning. I don't know if George received the surplus report that I sent him, because he had asked about this, as how much we have right now in revenue for surplus. As well, I sent to you guys the warnings that were voted on in March of last year. So that warning has the information as well as how much of those monies is allocated for each year, and it's been saved for improvements.
Okay, so because it should have built up, and so I don't know how much.
It has built up, yes. I thought, George, did you get my report this morning?
I did. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, he gave it to all. He shared
I got a lot of
500,000, and I questioned because it said fiscal year 19, and I think it should have if it was based on last year's budget and the surplus, it was fiscal year 20, because we're now in fiscal year 21.
For 19, you guys
19's already been voted on.
Yes, so you guys had separated for 19 $200,000, and then you had another 100 for 21, and for 2023 it was another reserve of another $100,000. So that's what I was what I read in the warnings that it was voted on.
Right.
And then right now the report that I gave George, surplus right now what we have bottom line was 995, but you know we had to take aside the $500,000 that we have for the previous between the FY19 200 and the 100 for capital improvement, and the other 100 that we have in reserve for 2023.
And so what did we get that we're supposed to have for that we're able to put in this year and vote on? Because we should have those numbers based on the audit, because that's new money coming in. This was from 2019. That's the year before. We should know what we have for 2020.
So for 2020 right now, we have as a surplus 495.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry. I think I just went over more into details.
So did the surplus that we had in previous years, that did not get spent as, or was that just left over aside from capital expenses?
It is aside. We haven't spent it completely, no. But as well, we had to take into consideration that we might be hit with a 2-year of salaries that we haven't taken into consideration yet. So that is part of the surplus amount that we have. That's why it's showing an overall of 995. But in that 995, we had to take into consideration the fact that I think we have 2 years that one might be that we might have to go back into salaries payments if, you know, it gets approved, you know, any raises.
So just for clarity, right now we have a surplus of $495,000.
Yes, set aside from the 500 that we have aside for capital projects, which 200 is for 19, 100 for 21, and another 100 for 2023.
But that's from the surplus from 2019. What we need to know is what money is coming in that's surplus from 2020. Are you telling me that's $495,000 more dollars? Because if so, we have to put it in as motions for the taxpayers and have them vote on it if we want them to put more money in the reserve fund, or we want to put more money against the expenditures. And we usually do that. For example, we would probably do it for 2024.
Yes.
Put it against that, and we would put some in the reserve fund. So you're telling us we have $495,000 more dollars that we need to do something with, right?
Yes, but from that amount, we had to take into consideration that we still haven't negotiated raises for the past year, and I don't know what is going to happen.
That has nothing to do with those. This has to do with the surplus, and the surplus we have to decide where it goes.
So hang on real quick. So anything with raises, that's been at least somewhat accounted for in the budget already. Is that correct?
For this year, yes, I did count it for this year in the budget.
Okay, so right now we have $495,000 of surplus that we need to, not necessarily right now, but we need to figure out what we're going to do with that money, whether we're going to keep it, give it taxpayer, relieve that burden, capital projects, that sort of thing, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I interrupted before Karen. Sorry, go ahead, Karen.
Karen's not with us here tonight. We want to give her our condolences and keep her in our thoughts and our prayers. Her mother passed away due to COVID-related issues, so she's not with us here tonight.
Okay, can you answer the question for her, or do we need to wait until and ask it of her, you know, how the cut.
We might be able to. All depends on the question. We might be able to. I know
The
Flora.
question was whether it how it impacted her budget, the cuts she put in, and whether she felt that was okay, and that she could manage okay without, you know, really truly impacting the students or her staff.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is what Priscilla's asking. And correct me if I'm wrong, Priscilla. It's the we were looking for a cut, but again, also we don't want to, you know, pull away from student learning opportunities. And also, I want to point out too that if Karen Bukowski put it in a budget, she wouldn't put it in a budget if she thought it wasn't appropriate. That's just my take on her. But Mr. Pratt, if you or Flora, if you guys can speak to Priscilla's question, that'd be excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, so the last review for Karen's budget, the only thing that she actually adjusted was a little bit on the COVID supplies, because that was something, you know, that we might not have extra expenses on. And the salary wise, the only amount that she adjusted was her salary. Other than that, she didn't make any other adjustments because she had reviewed already her budget. Her budget already was level funded, and actually she had all her cuts. So the only last adjustment that she had was, you know, I didn't take into consideration that she was going to retire. So other than that, everything was most likely the same, not touched.
Okay, so you think she's okay, and yes, she will have time to come back to us if we need to, because we'll need like one more time, according to what.
Yeah, yes. I think the last time I spoke with her, if you had to go any deeper, then absolutely it would impact student learning if she had to cut any more from her budget.
Great, thanks. Priscilla, does that answer your question okay?
Yeah, thank you so much, George.
Yeah, thanks everybody. That's we appreciate it. And again, that's the last thing we want to do is cut student learning opportunities. So thank you for that. Let's see, anybody have any questions, comments?
George, I have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is maybe for you or Priscilla or anybody because I searched and I couldn't find fiscal year 19, the end of year financials, or even for 20. And I know I just didn't ask the right questions at the last minute, but did the budget come in on budget for those years? Do these budgets typically stay within the lines or the lanes for the past few years before COVID?
So it sounds like you're asking if the expenses are less than what was budgeted.
Right.
I'll leave that to Flora, but it sounds like that answer is yes, based on
surplus amount that we have. Yes.
Okay.
And
perfect.
I was meeting. That's why I was like short with you guys, because I had to rush. I had like almost a 3-hour meeting with the auditors, trying to do all the general entries and updating the system. And the auditors actually felt really comfortable with me providing the report to you this morning with the information of the surplus and how everything was level funded, and we didn't went over our expenses. Even actually, they gave us kudos to the SU, because usually the SU would have finished the year with negative balance. This year it wasn't that way. So that's really good as well. They still haven't finished the complete audit, because we did have, to submit extra documents and backup information that they wanted. But financially, they felt really happy with us, which is a good accomplishment overall.
Flora, when you say this year, do you mean fiscal year 20, the one that just wrapped up?
Yes, FY20. Yes, that's what we're being audited on.
Has it come in on a negative balance like in 19 or pre-COVID times? I'm hoping someone can.
For the SU, I did know that for the SU, it did come with a negative balance. It wasn't. It was like negative $4,000, so it wasn't like a high amount either. Nothing right. That it wasn't manageable. But going by for Rockingham, no.
Okay.
Because that's why you guys still have the surplus carryover from the previous year. If not, we wouldn't have the amount that we have right now. So the amount that we have from the Cardinals report that I gave to you guys this morning is not the amount just for FY20. It's what has been carried over from previous year.
Thank you, Flora.
You're welcome.
Priscilla,
We've had surpluses most times, but Flora, you need to look at the column that says fiscal year 21 budget. And that is not the amount that we voted on. It was not 11,154,000. It was $10,888,771.78. And that is in the town meeting thing that Rockingham voted on. So that's the number that has to be there. That will also be the number that has to be on the 3-year comparison thing that goes to AOE. So that's a crucial number. And I don't know how you got the 11 million, but it's got to be the 108. So I mean the 10,888.
So I did see that you had mentioned that. So the information, I do pull it from the system. And right now we are still working with eFinance to see how they're gonna fix the system. They just don't know. As this morning, we did get a call from IT from them because they just don't know how to adjust the information that has been carried over. So this amount that you see in a difference is salary payments for those people that work over the summer. For some reason, the system is allocating that portion and adding it to the budget for the next year. So that's why it seems like it's being over. That was a question from George that I was trying to explain to him. It's not that we went over budget. It's not that we were overexpended. It's a system issue. And that is something that we're still waiting on eFinance to see what they're gonna do with us. Right now, our biggest concern is that we might have to do all these entries manually. So that means us making general entries as an adjustment to reverse that amount so everybody could be level again as what it was approved. So this actually impacts every single school.
All right, we just need to make sure that it's corrected before it's put in the annual report and before it goes on that AOE comparison page, because that carries over. It's got from the last year's, as from 2018 through 2021, the budget, and so it puts in 4 years worth. And so that number has to slide over, and then the new number this year has to be added on. And the other number that we're going to need is the tuition per equalized student, which we're going to have to figure out.
So we did get some information from the state for the tuition for equalized students that we do.
Yeah, I received it. Chris sent that to me, and sorry guys, I neglected to send that.
I sent that out to all board members last week or the week before.
I think it was just the board chairs, Chris. I noticed today. I'll send the letter out to you folks too as well. So backing up just a second. So that figure from the previous fiscal year, 11 whatever it is, and not 10,888. That aside from that, this year's numbers are accurate and not with the same confliction. Does that question make sense? That was a question.
This is totally different because this year is requested based budget. So this year is something that we just put in the system. It's a budget that being requested. It's nothing like set in stone. It's nothing approved. I could go in, manipulate it manually, do any changes because it's not recorded in the system because it hasn't been approved. The problem that we have is that there's a budget that was approved and these are showing as extra expenses in those lines.
Gotcha. So at this point, I'm, again, not finance savvy. The per pupil figure that I think Priscilla was referring to, I know that that's partially calculated by state stuff, but how does that get calculated on our end? It's the number, isn't it the total number divided by the number of students at different weights?
Yeah.
So do we know what our portion, do we know what that is?
No, I have not made calculations for that, but that's something that we could just do for you guys as well.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Anybody have anything?
I think I have a question again. Sorry.
Sure. Don't be sorry. Go ahead.
So I feel so new, and so when I don't understand what's going on, I try to find, I try to do what I do at my day job, and I try to see if the budget is sustainable. And so I do these budget versus actual numbers, and so I calculated, our 6.6 year to date versus now it's 10.8 million budgeted for fiscal year 21. And, at the end of December, we're 50% through the fiscal year, I believe. So we should be operating at about 50%, but crunching the numbers, we're operating at 61%. So what happens if you are in negative balance at the end of a fiscal year?
Once again, we are rolling over summer pays. That's what is hitting that. That's why it's seen like at this point, we are at 61%. So if we add into the expenses, summer pays to including salaries and including benefits for that portion of the month, that is the extra amount that you see. That will be that extra 10% if you think about it. So, anybody that work on summertime, all of that summer pay, which includes as well benefits, is going to hit that extra 10% that we've seen as a year to date in expenses.
Right. So you guys aren't, you looked at it and it's absolutely where we should be at this point in the year, which gives me faith that this budget, you know what I mean? The one that's proposed for next year, that's all I can do with my limited scope of understanding at this point. So.
Oh, yes, because most likely everybody is a salaried, unless, people working overtime, you might see a little fluctuation. Right. But when we run the reports as budgeted, what is in the system is what we have contract with any of the faculty members. So that's what gets put in the system. Anything that gets then has any overtime or extra expenses, you will see that in the report that we send bi-weekly, which is a Cognos report that is called the budget versus actual.
Okay. Thank you, Flora.
You're welcome.
Laura, one more question. The bottom line here says 10.856799, and then the last one was 10,849,299. So it's actually looks like it's gone up.
What are you comparing right now, Priscilla?
I'm looking at the bottom number, and I'm looking at what I written down last week, or on the last one I looked at before this one, and I had written down $10,849,299.13.
That's what I'm looking at right now. Is that not what you're seeing?
The one at the bottom of the sheet she just had up there was $10,856,000.
Any of the changes that we have was any adjustments that I think I have from Laura, if I'm not mistaken.
But they took stuff out, so it should have gone down, not up.
Well, no, wasn't there something that was added somewhere due to, I think it was Central, right?
Well, Central added $33,000 for one of their students that she had mentioned. I know she couldn't disclose some extra information, but it's a student that he is actually regular ed, and then special ed does provide services, but Carrie will have to provide that portion of the salary of special ed for that student, because it's a regular ed student with special needs. Maybe she could explain it better, but I know that was our debate.
Great job.
No, that's okay. That's fine. But I think what Priscilla is saying is what is the most up to date, because the one that we have from our email does show a different figure than what is on the screen currently. So we want to make sure that
this is our last budget. This should be the one that I sent to you guys as of this evening.
The one you look at, the one she's sharing with you right now is the up-to-date one. And if the number is different, it's because we just said there was a student cost that had to be added. So that's probably why, even though there were some cuts made, that put it up, because of the students' needs were required to meet by law.
Okay, so could you send us the updated version? And at that point, I think, I guess unless requested, not make any changes, or if there are others that are needed.
This is the updated version, isn't it, Flora?
Yes, this is the one that I sent this evening to you guys.
This evening? Let me see. Let me go back. The one that I'm looking.
This is the one that I've been sending constantly. I think I sent it to you guys like maybe 2 times.
The one that I'm looking at is, as Priscilla said, says 10/8/49/299/13. So let me go back and look in my email. We got about 35 emails on one thing today. So WNESU budget, Rockingham budget reviewed. It was sent 2:05. Let's see what that one is.
It has a number 1 because it will be the last one that I sent, and it's labeled like that 1, and this is Rock review budget.
Yep. $10,849,299.13 is what I see. Which that's
it doesn't agree.
That's not necessarily the a showstopper. It's just a difference than what we're seeing on the screen right now is all.
Yeah, that's I sent it today. Yeah, and it was at 2:05. It should be this one that we have here on the screen.
I didn't get one today at 2:05, Laura. I think that maybe it didn't get to us.
I didn't get one either.
No, I'm looking at the one that I got at 2:05 today, and it's there's a slight inconsistency there. So, which again is not the end of the world. It just maybe
I did send it to Rockingham School Board.
Maybe just resend. I don't know if I'm not sure. I'm not an IT professional either, but yeah. So we want to be looking at the budget that you have on the screen currently.
I did forward it again.
Okay, great.
We're just trying to keep up with you, Flora. That's all.
I apologize. I did forward it. I sent it today. And I do have like an email from you as well at 2:05.
I could have the wrong thing up. I don't think so, but I don't know. It's okay. If you resend that, that's fine. And so we're all looking at the same thing, and that'd be just fine.
Yes, I know this is the last one because I added as well a note, so you guys would know the overall budget of everybody together, how much it was, that the budget was down, as you can see here on the screen. And then I put a note on the side so you guys knew what those miscellaneous meant. And those miscellaneous, it was the nurses for the school, tuitions, insurance, and the crossing guard and bonds. That's the amount that it was there. That that miscellaneous cannot be adjusted because those are miscellaneous expenses that all of the schools are part of as a group.
Laura, I just got the 10/8/49 one. I did not get the one that's on the screen. It just came through at 6:10. So for some reason, we're getting that discrepancy, 849 instead of 856.
Okay, so what I'm going to suggest at this point. Okay, yeah. So what I'm going to suggest at this point is we let Flora and stuff figure that out after this meeting. So we can kind of move on. Priscilla, would you do me a favor and just keep an eye on the clock so we don't run into the SU budget meeting? Hopefully we're closing up soon here, but so I wasn't around for budget season last year, so this may be outside of the scope of the budget conversation. But so the articles, when do those need to be? Is that part of that drop dead time that we need to? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that's the date that Nicole's working on. We've put out a few messages this week. I think everyone's just straight out right now, town offices as well as our offices. So we should be getting that information, the drop dead date that we need to have the articles in.
I think I'm quoting one of the other board members at another district, but anyway, so I guess at this point, what would be good to have is the price per pupil. Other than that, is there anything else board members need or want from the team, the education team here? Or is there any other thoughts, comments, concerns, questions, etc.?
I guess when Flora gets that 3 prior years comparison form, the AOE form, we need to see that as well.
Okay, so we got that form. Flora, you got that down, right?
Yep.
And then
form comparison from AOE and the cost per pupil.
Cost per pupil, yep.
Yeah, it goes on that sheet.
Oh, it does? Oh, okay. Excellent. Anything else we're missing here? Any other concerns? Any other thoughts at all?
My thought would be that everybody's doing so much and such a great job. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I did that again, Priscilla. Can you check if you did receive it, the same one? Because I keep sending the same one, and it's just really, really weird why it wouldn't go through. I even try opening it, and it says, that I have it open right now. So it is the correct one.
Mm-hmm.
Flora, I got 2 from you in the last few minutes, and the first one was still the lower number, but the second one you just sent is the number that the 10856.
Okay.
Yep, me too.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's easy to do.
All right.
I did number it as number 1 in review.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and assume we're pretty well wrapped up here. Unless anybody else has anything more to add to the budget discussion, conversation. All right, well, we have time for dinner before the SU meeting then. Where are we? I lost my agenda. I think we're at director's comments, is that right? I lost my agenda, so I'm assuming that it's director's comments.
Yes, that's next.
Okay, so anybody like to go first? I'll go ahead. Prayers for Miss Bukowski and her family. Sorry she couldn't be here, but we're pulling for you, and we're thinking of you. And so, and also prayers for our country right now. Pretty bad stuff going on in Washington, and no matter what side of the fence you're on, it stinks, and my heart really hurts for our country. So that said, thank you guys for your hard work, and that's all I got. Thanks. Who's up?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
I'll just repeat, piggyback off of George, and thank you to Flora and the team for all this hard work. It's much appreciated, and thank you for answering all my questions. Sure to be more. I appreciate your patience.
Jason Terry, go ahead.
I have no comment. Thank you, George.
Okay. Priscilla?
Just glad we're in a peaceful part of the country. And your thoughts were perfect, George.
Okay. On the agenda, is there a next meeting, or I think we already have our next meeting scheduled, our regular board meeting, at which time we will solidify the articles to be presented to the town, or does that happen at the next budget meeting? Priscilla or Chris?
We probably want to, if we have it, we want to do it the soonest possibility. So. Okay,
so as soon as the SU gets squared away, we'll probably call a special meeting at some point to finalize this budget, and I'm hopeful that we'll vote one way or the other. Does that seem to be an accurate timeline, guys? Sometime within the next week?
It does, but the 18th, if you're talking about that one, that is Martin Luther King Day.
We have one scheduled already at the regular board. It's an off day. It's Tuesday the 19th. That's what I have. What we talked about last meeting.
Oh. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So Tuesday 19th is the next regular board meeting. But prior to that, we will most definitely schedule hopefully a final budget meeting, and hopefully Nicole can get some feedback on when our submit date needs to be. So is everybody okay with that? I see a couple nods. Okay. I guess that's it. Call this meeting to, do I need a vote too? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Excellent. All in favor? Some of you else in a while.